After nearly 14 years in her role as city planner, Andrea Smith is leaving Ogdensburg city government. She reflects on her time there with 7 News reporter Lexi Bruning.
Monday night, Director of Planning and Development Andrea Smith gave one of her last presentations to Ogdensburg City Council.
Definitely bittersweet, definitely bittersweet.
She's worn a lot of hats since she took over the role of city planner in 2011. Not only as the city planner, but she filled in as interim city manager twice in 2022 and 2023.
It actually, I think, helped me, the 2 different times being in that position helped me be a better planner for the community, having a much more in-depth knowledge of the city's finances.
During her time as Director of Planning and Development, Smith has worked on a lot of projects, including the $43 million wastewater treatment facility upgrade.
The opportunity to work with the Village of Hewelton through an intermunicipal agreement and work towards becoming a regional provider of wastewater services, that's not something that every municipal planner gets to have a role in. It was very, very educational and something that I definitely enjoyed.
Mayor Michael Tooley says Smith's departure will be a great loss for the city.
For me as mayor, she's been a fountain of information.
A fountain of information who kept the grant money flowing. She helped the city receive state funding for stormwater issues and to help make improvements to its municipal pool.
They almost came one on top of the other, so $5.5 million in less than 2 months together. And again, she was the lead on all those applications.
Smith will stay in the community and is ready to see it through a different lens.
I'm looking forward to sort of being on the outside and watching what happens in Ogdensburg in particular, but sort of seeing what is happening in communities around us and maybe taking up a different role.
Smith's last day is December 1st. Lexi Bruning, 7 News.